I have made a video giving my bold predictions heading into each of the last 5 NHL seasons, and since we are now about a month away from opening night, I figured now would be a perfect time to make this year's version of that video. Today I'm going to be going over my bold predictions for the 2024-25 NHL season, and just as a heads up, the next video on the channel is going to be me reacting to your guys' bold predictions for the upcoming season, and the post for that video is already up on the community tab. It's been up for a while, so I'm sure most of you have seen it, but for those of you who haven't and you're interested in potentially being featured in tomorrow's video, you can go find that post on the community tab and leave some of your bold predictions. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and start this video off. Every year when it comes to these videos, I always make it a point to have at least one Red Wings bold prediction in these videos, whether it's the team or a player on the Red Wings, and last year the bold prediction that I made about the Red Wings actually ended up being correct. I said they would finish with a top 10 ranked power play, which would have been the first time they did that since I believe 2014 or 2015, and they actually finished the regular season with the 9th ranked power play in the entire league. So hopefully this year our Red Wings bold prediction will be correct again. We'll start off with that one, which is Lucas Raymond becomes the first Red Wing to score 90 plus points in a season since Pavel Datsyuk in 2009. Despite narrowly missing out on the playoffs this past season, there were still quite a bit of bright spots when it came to the Red Wings, and I think arguably the biggest bright spot was Lucas Raymond breaking out and taking his game to another level. After a bit of a sophomore slump in the 2022-23 season, Lucas Raymond finished this past season with career highs across the board: 31 goals, 41 assists for 72 points in 82 games. And the last month or so of the regular season, Lucas Raymond was one of the hottest players in the entire NHL, and if it hadn't been for him playing out of his mind like he was, the Red Wings would not have been as close to making the playoffs as they were. I think in order for the Red Wings to take that next step as a team, get over the hump, and get back into the playoffs, they're going to need Lucas Raymond to continue to be that top line superstar dynamic offensive winger that he was for the last month of this past regular season. If Raymond is able to maintain that high level of play throughout an 82 game season, I definitely feel like 90 points is achievable. First, he has to sign a contract though, so hopefully that gets done soon. Moving on now to bold prediction number 2, I am predicting that Patrik Laine, the newest member of the Montreal Canadiens, is going to crack the 40 goal mark in a season for the second time in his career. The first time he did it was a long time ago now. It was Laine's sophomore season back in 2017-18 with the Winnipeg Jets, where he finished with 44 goals in 82 games. Since that sophomore season, things have been pretty bumpy for Patrik Laine. This past season in Columbus was especially tough as Laine only appeared in 18 games, and in those 18 games he had just 9 points. Laine is a guy that I'm going to be rooting for heavily this season. He's had a rough go of it over these last few years, both on and off the ice. I think going to the Canadiens is a fantastic opportunity for Laine, a much needed fresh start. There's going to be a lot of young talent surrounding Laine in the Canadiens top 6, and he's going to a team where he's not expected to be the face of the franchise. I know just naturally there's a lot of pressure that comes with playing for the Montreal Canadiens, but when Laine was drafted 2nd overall by the Jets, especially after the explosive first couple seasons he had in the league for them, that's a guy who was, labeled as the face of their franchise. And when he was traded to Columbus in exchange for Pierre-Luc Dubois, kind of the same deal. The Blue Jackets thought they were acquiring the face of their franchise, their main guy. And I don't really think anyone's expecting that from Laine in Montreal because the Canadiens already have their franchise cornerstones with the likes of Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Juraj Slafkovsky. In my opinion, Patrik Laine should be heading into this season with a massive chip on his shoulder because it does seem like a lot of people have forgotten what this guy is capable of. Like I previously mentioned, sure, this past season was pretty difficult for Laine, just 9 points in 18 games, but the 2 years prior with the Blue Jackets, he was right around a point per game on some pretty bad Blue Jackets teams, I might add. I still believe Patrik Laine is one of the best pound-for-pound natural goal scorers that the NHL has to offer, and I'm expecting him to have a massive first year in Montreal. Moving on now to bold prediction number 3, I'm going to say that the Vegas Golden Knights miss the playoffs in 2025. In my opinion, the Golden Knights lost a lot of depth this offseason. Lower in the lineup, guys like Will Carrier and Mike Amadio both left as free agents. Those are two players that played pretty key roles for Vegas in their bottom 6. Chandler Stevenson is another guy, but obviously the big one is Jonathan Marchessault, who signed with the Nashville Predators as a free agent. Marchessault is coming off of a career year with the Golden Knights where he scored 42 goals, played in all 82 games, and really stepped up in a big way while Vegas dealt with injuries to other key players. The Golden Knights are a team really over the past 2-3 years now that just cannot seem to stay healthy, and it seems like it's always top of the lineup players, key guys for this Golden Knights team that always seem to miss big chunks of the regular season. And if that's the case again this season, I don't really think the Golden Knights have the kind of depth behind their star players anymore to be able to stay afloat while the top guys are on the shelf with injury. I mean, this past season there were times where it looked like they were in danger of missing the playoffs. I also have my concerns about their goaltending situation. Adin Hill has been good for them, but he's another guy who's dealt with injuries, and the most games he's played in a single season is 35. And behind Adin Hill, their other option is Ilya Samsonov, who's expected to start the season as the Golden Knights backup. Well, this past season in Toronto, he was one of the worst goaltenders in the entire league. I'm not sitting here and saying it is a sure bet that Vegas misses the playoffs in 2025. That's why I'm including this in my bold predictions video, but I can definitely envision a scenario where Vegas struggles this season and misses out on the playoffs for the reasons that I mentioned. Moving on now to the next bold prediction. I just predicted one Western Conference team to miss the playoffs. Now I'm going to predict a different Western Conference team to make the playoffs, and that team is Utah. In their first offseason under new ownership, their first offseason since being relocated to Utah, they made some big splashes, especially to the blue line, bringing in the likes of Mikhail Sergachev, who is now their clear-cut number one, and also guys like John Marino and Ian Cole to round out the top six. Aside from the additions they made to improve the blue line in the offseason, I think a lot of Utah's improvement is going to come from internal growth of young players. Two players that I'm thinking of especially, Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther. I'm expecting both of those guys to pop off and have big years. This team looks solid on paper, and I think they have the potential to surprise a lot of people. I mean, look at how Arizona performed this past season. If it wasn't for that disastrous run they went on towards the middle of the season, they lost, like 13 or 14 games in a row. If it wasn't for that terrible streak, they would have at least been within striking distance of a wildcard spot. Aside from that terrible streak, they weren't bad last season, and I think without a doubt they are an improved roster heading into next season. I'm really thinking we could see some magic from Utah in their inaugural season. Well, I guess not the franchise's inaugural season, their first season in Utah. Maybe not to the extent of Vegas, coming into the NHL and making it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, but I do really believe that playoffs is not out of the question for this team. Moving on now to my next bold prediction, I am predicting that Sheldon Keefe, who is obviously now the head coach of the New Jersey Devils, wins the Jack Adams in 2025. For those of you who don't know, the Jack Adams is basically the Coach of the Year award, but in my opinion, the way this award is given out is kind of flawed. It's more so just an award that is given to the coach of a team that exceeded expectations the most, or had the biggest season-to-season improvement, which I actually think bodes well for Sheldon Keefe here, because obviously this past season was very disappointing for the New Jersey Devils. After being in contention for the President's Trophy the year prior, they completely missed out on the playoffs this past season. In my opinion, the Devils have had a fantastic offseason. They addressed the goaltending situation, landing Jacob Markstrom. They brought in some guys to really round out the blue line with the likes of Brendan Dillon and Brett Pesce. They're also going to be getting their number one defenseman back in Dougie Hamilton. Guys like Luke Hughes and Simon Nemec should just continue to get better. I think this season we're going to see the Devils be a lot closer to the team they were in 2022-23 as opposed to 2023-24. So if that is what happens and the Devils go from missing the playoffs this past season to being one of the better teams in the NHL this upcoming season, which I'm kind of expecting them to, then I think naturally Sheldon Keefe is going to get a lot of credit for that and get a lot of praise for the New Jersey Devils turnaround. It would definitely look good on his resume that in his first season taking over as the bench boss, they go from missing the playoffs to, being closer to the team that they were in 2022-23. And now finally finishing out this video with my last bold prediction, I'm going to say that Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is now a member of the Washington Capitals, sets a new career high in points this season. I said earlier in this video when talking about Patrik Laine that I think Patrik Laine is going to be coming into this season with a chip on his shoulder, feeling like he has something to prove, and I feel like that rings true even more so for Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is coming off of his one and only season with the LA Kings, which was just a complete disaster, finished with just 40 points in 82 games, the lowest point per game he's put up in a season in his entire career. There were points throughout the season where Pierre-Luc Dubois was being called out by then head coach of the LA Kings, Todd McClellan. Dubois' first season with the Kings, the first season of that massive contract extension that he was given by the Kings after they traded for him, was just a complete nightmare. It's hard to imagine it could have have gone any worse. Luckily for the Kings, they were able to get out from under that contract after just 1 year, and now Dubois has an opportunity to go to a team in Washington who needs offense. It's a fresh start for Dubois. He's not the only reinforcements that they brought in. They also acquired the likes of Jacob Chikrin, Andrew Mangiapane, signed Matt Roy in free agency as well, who should definitely help out on their right side. This is a much improved roster on paper than it was last season, and this is a team that managed to squeak their way into the playoffs last season. It's hard to imagine Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to be as bad for the Washington Capitals as he was this past season for the Kings. He's just way too talented for that, so that's why I'm going out on a limb here and saying he not only bounces back, but actually sets a new career high in points, which I don't even think is too crazy of a bold prediction because his career high in points is only 63. So that is going to wrap up today's video. Those are some bold predictions that I have for the 2024-25 NHL season. As always, I want to know what you guys are thinking. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there is a post up on the community tab currently. If you want to go and leave your bold predictions on that post for a chance to be featured in tomorrow's video, then feel free. But if you don't want to do that, feel free to just leave some of your bold predictions down below in the comment section of this video as well. If you made it all this way to the end of the video and you ended up enjoying yourself, please remember to leave a like. It definitely helps out the video a ton, and it's the best way to let me know that you enjoyed. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this all year round, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're getting super close to 80,000, and with that all being said, I will talk to you all again soon.